welcome back to Live Now from Fox. We're continuing to follow some breaking news here, bringing you some additional information on this story as President Trump is imposing an additional 25% tariff on India. Here's this post coming in here from the Associated Press. President Trump signed an executive order today to place that additional 25% tariff on India for its purchases of Russian oil.
The trade war just took a dangerous turn. Trump just slapped a 50% tariff on Indian goods, and the economic fallout could be devastating. From skyrocketing prices to massive job losses, India is now on the front lines of a brutal trade battle. But why is Trump targeting India now? In a significant trade policy move, U.S. President Donald Trump has announced a 25% tariff on Indian goods, along with an unspecified penalty targeting India's purchases of Russian oil and military equipment. The decision, set to take effect this Friday, comes as the White House grows increasingly frustrated with the ongoing war in Ukraine, which it claims has been indirectly supported by India's dealings with Russia. Trump revealed the measures in a post on his Truth Social platform, framing them as necessary to address what he called a long-standing trade imbalance between the two nations. While India is our friend, we have, over the years, done relatively little business with them because their tariffs are far too high, Trump stated. He further criticized India for continuing to buy military hardware and oil from Russia, arguing that such transactions have indirectly sustained Moscow's war efforts in Ukraine. As part of a broader revision of U.S. tariffs on multiple countries, the new penalty is expected to intensify economic tensions between Washington and New Delhi. The Indian government has acknowledged the announcement, stating it is currently reviewing the potential impact of these measures. The move further strains the relationship between Trump and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, which had been notably strong during Trump's first term, but has faced growing friction over trade and immigration policies. Notably, Modi has publicly rejected Trump's claim that he sought U.S. mediation during a brief military confrontation with Pakistan last May, firmly stating that India does not and will never accept third-party intervention in its disputes. Meanwhile, Pakistan appears to have gained favor with the Trump administration, both before and after its tensions with India. In a notable diplomatic gesture, Trump hosted Pakistan's Army Chief, General Asim Munir, for a White House lunch in June, marking the first time a U.S. president has extended such an invitation to a Pakistani military leader who does not simultaneously serve as the country's head of state. This development underscores the shifting dynamics in U.S. foreign policy in South Asia, where strategic alliances are being recalibrated amid ongoing geopolitical and economic pressures. The latest tariffs signal a tougher U.S. stance on trade relations with India, raising questions about how New Delhi will respond and whether this could lead to further economic or diplomatic repercussions between the two nations. The United States has rolled out a series of negotiated trade agreements with key partners, including the European Union, Japan, the Philippines, and Indonesia, as part of President Donald Trump's broader strategy to reshape global commerce. Trump has framed these deals as efforts to open foreign markets for American goods while allowing the U.S. to impose higher tariffs on imports, a move he argues will help balance trade deficits and strengthen domestic manufacturing. The administration views these tariff revenues as a way to offset budget deficits linked to recent income tax cuts, as well as a means to revitalize U.S. factory jobs. However, economists remain skeptical about the long-term effects of this aggressive trade approach. While Trump has used tariffs as a powerful tool to renegotiate trade terms, experts warn that the policy could slow U.S. economic growth and fuel inflation, as the added costs of imported goods are likely to be passed on to American businesses and consumers. The latest data from the U.S. Census Bureau highlights the trade imbalance with India, which reached $45.8 billion last year, underscoring the significant gap between what the U.S. imports from India compared to what it exports. India, now the world's most populous nation with over 1.4 billion people, holds crucial geopolitical importance as a potential counterweight to China. Yet its long-standing ties with Russia have complicated relations with the West, particularly as New Delhi has refrained from joining Western sanctions against Moscow over the war in Ukraine. During a meeting with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi earlier this year, Trump expressed optimism that India would increase its purchases of U.S. oil and natural gas, signaling a potential shift in trade dynamics. Despite these discussions, tensions have persisted. On a recent flight back from a 5-day trip to Scotland, Trump spoke briefly with reporters about his trade policies, but remained tight-lipped when asked about reports that India was preparing for U.S. tariffs of at least 25%. "We're going to see," he said, offering no further details. He also confirmed that a broader trade agreement with India had not yet been finalized, leaving open questions about how the two nations will navigate their economic relationship moving forward. As the White House continues to leverage tariffs in its trade strategy, the implications for global markets remain uncertain. While the administration insists these measures will protect American interests, critics argue that the approach risks alienating key allies and disrupting supply chains at a time when economic stability is already fragile. The coming weeks will be critical in determining whether these policies yield the intended benefits or if they further strain international trade relations. President Donald Trump in more than 90 countries has officially taken effect. The decision, announced on his social media platform Truth Social just before a key deadline for trade negotiations, heralds a new era of American economic policy. President Trump's administration views these tariffs as a crucial tool to encourage the return of jobs and manufacturing to the United States, among other strategic political objectives. The president has made it clear that a central part of his agenda is to address what he perceives as an unfair global trading system and to significantly reduce the U.S. trade deficit, which is the imbalance between the value of goods America buys from other countries versus what it sells. This recent move has seen the overall average U.S. tariff rate rise to its highest level in almost a century, following a series of other industry-specific taxes on products like steel and vehicles. The mechanics and impact of the tariffs. The tariffs function by applying a tax on goods that U.S. importers purchase from foreign nations. These importers may subsequently pass on some or all of these additional costs to American consumers. While President Trump has claimed that foreign countries will pay these tariffs, many economists and policy analysts warn that the burden will ultimately be borne by American businesses and consumers through higher prices. The tariffs that came into effect were initially announced in April, but were later paused to give countries an opportunity to negotiate new trade deals with Washington. This period of uncertainty created turmoil in the global economy, though markets have recently shown signs of stabilization. Global responses and economic repercussions. The effects of these tariffs are not uniform, with some countries facing particularly steep levies. Manufacturing-heavy economies in Southeast Asia have been among the hardest hit, with nations like Laos and Myanmar facing tariffs as high as 40%. Some analysts suggest that President Trump may have targeted countries with strong trade ties to China. However, after months of anticipation, major stock markets in Asia, including those in Japan, Hong Kong, South Korea, and mainland China, reacted with some resilience, posting slight gains. Conversely, markets in India and Australia saw a downturn. Some countries managed to secure more favorable trade deals before the deadline. The United Kingdom, Japan, and South Korea, for instance, negotiated agreements for lower tariff rates than originally threatened. The European Union also reached a framework deal, accepting a 15% tariff on goods from the bloc. In contrast, Switzerland was unable to strike a deal and now faces one of the highest tariff rates at 39%, a measure that could have a substantial impact on its export-driven economy. Taiwan, a key American ally in Asia, was handed a 20% tariff, though its president, Lai Ching-te, has described the rate as temporary. With ongoing talks with the U.S. Separately, the president has also issued specific threats against individual nations. He recently threatened to raise tariffs on imports from India to 50% unless the country ceases its purchase of Russian oil. Additionally, he has threatened a 100% tariff on foreign-made computer chips as a means to compel technology companies to increase their investments in the U.S. As economist Bert Hoffman from the National University of Singapore noted, "This is supposed to be it. Now, you can start to analyze the impact of the tariffs. The stakes have never been higher. With Trump's 50% tariff hammering India's economy, the world is watching to see if New Delhi will strike back with its own sanctions or seek a desperate deal. Let us know in the comments what you think of the whole situation, and if you want to stay on top of this, smash that like and subscribe button.